Welcome, everyone. This is another one of the digital concerts from the Trinity Alps Chamber Music Festival. My name is Ian Scarfe. I'm the director of the Trinity Alps Chamber Music Festival. We started these digital concerts almost 3 years ago in 2020 as a response to the pandemic and all of our wonderful musician friends needing an outlet to play music. And here we are, still doing them, still having a lot of fun. We're still here in my living room in San Francisco where we're able to broadcast very nicely. So thank you all for being here. Today I have a very special guest joining me. Joining me on this program is my friend and colleague, Roseminna Watson. Rosie has come all the way out from her home in Providence, Rhode Island to be here in California, and we've had a wonderful week putting together several different concerts here in San Francisco. Last night we traveled up to Redding, up near the Trinity Alps, and played a wonderful concert there. Tomorrow night we're playing in Oakland here in the Bay Area. And so it's been a really great thing. We've played not only several pieces which you're going to hear tonight, but we also played a trio with our friend James. The trio is actually composed by Rosie herself. Unfortunately, James can't be here tonight, so we're not going to. If you want to hear that, you've got to come to Oakland tomorrow. And if you get started now, you can probably make it, even if you're in Texas or New England or wherever you may find yourself. Okay, so let me change camera views here to my trusty camera here. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Rosie Watson, the two of us are going to start our program with work by Mozart. This is one of Mozart's many sonatas for violin and piano. It is an utterly charming work, a nice way to start the program to sort of get us sort of sinking into the sound of the room around us and to get your ears all tuned up for a concert of an evening of listening to music. This piece is like most sonatas for two or more instruments. This piece is written kind of as a conversation between the two instruments. So it's less of a case of, the violin soloist and the dutiful piano accompanist. And it's more of a case of two voices that are constantly trading back and forth. So virtually every little tune you hear in one instrument gets traded to the other. And in that way, it's a very conversational piece. It's a wonderful one. So we hope you enjoy. This is Mozart's Sonata in G major, K301.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. That was the first piece was Sonata by Mozart, one of our favorites. Looks like we have a couple people who just joined us. Welcome. What you just heard was Mozart's Sonata in G major for violin and piano. Pretty charming music. Next, we're going to turn to something quite different. This next work is by the English composer Rebecca Clark. This is a piece from the early 1920s. Rebecca Clark, she was a violist herself, so she wrote a lot of music for strings and piano, all kinds of wonderful music. This particular one has the very evocative title, Midsummer Moon. So it's a little bit of night music, a nocturne, perhaps, if you will. But you know, written in the 1920s, I think it picked up a little bit of the sound of that era in terms of the sounds of sort of adventurous, lush harmonies and this kind of impressionistic sound setting. It's a beautiful piece. I hope you enjoy it. Again, this is Rebecca Clark, Midsummer Moon. you very much.
Mhm.
That was a work by Rebecca Clark, Midsummer Moon. Thank you. I see a few applaud emojis coming out. Hearts, that's also good. Thank you all so much. That was a piece by Rebecca Clark, Midsummer Moon. Next on the program, I'm going to share a little bit of piano music for you. This next work is by the American composer Samuel Barber. This is one I've been practicing quite a lot lately. You're about to hear why. This is from Barber's set of excursions for the piano. Barber called these excursions, he called them excursions into the American countryside, where he could sort of borrow from American folk music idioms and popular music to blend it into his own sort of more modern piano style. Barber wrote these in 1944, so think about the folk tunes and the popular music in 1944 and how that might blend in with Samuel Barber's style. Anyway, there's 4 of these, and each one of them is its own little set. There's a cowboy dance, there's a jazzy one, there's a little blues ballad. And the one that I'm going to play is a little set of variations on an American folk song. Or at least it sounds like an American folk song. It's a little tune that Barber wrote himself. Let's see. Andrew, don't take it personally, but I'm keeping you muted there. This little tune is, like I said, it's the basis for a set of variations. And, you know, the idea of a theme and variations, that's a very old idea. It goes back to the days of Mozart and Schubert and even Bach. But because of that, I'm just going to demonstrate the theme for you real quick, because what he does with this is kind of amazing. This little tune is fairly straightforward. It actually reminds me of an old song, an American folk song called The Streets of Laredo. It's kind of similar in some ways. Anyway, like I said, what Barber does is he takes that and makes a little set of variations out of it. And to do that, he primarily focuses on the rhythm. And I'm just going to demonstrate a little bit of what I mean. The rhythm in all of this, even though it's a very gentle song and it goes by very easily, the rhythms can be extraordinarily complicated. In short, what he asks me to do is, for almost the whole piece, I have to play with my hands, my 2 hands, at slightly different speeds, which is hard, because I don't know if you remember from when you took piano lessons, but what did your teacher do? They would put a metronome here on the piano, and it would go tick, tock, tick, and you had to play hands together. And so my whole life, I've been very dutifully playing hands together. And then I'm confronted with a piece like this, and suddenly I have to untether them from each other, and it's like I have to have 2 different brains. Let me show you what I mean. Listen first to the left hand. This is right at the beginning. He asks me to do this. In my left hand, that's pretty straightforward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3. So 8 beats per bar. That's pretty normal. While I'm doing that, the melody in my right hand has to do 7 beats per bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I don't know if you're good at math, but I've done the math, and 7 and 8, they don't fit together very well at all. They're kind of totally. So anyway, when I say my hands have to go at slightly different speeds, this is kind of what I mean. I have to, right from the beginning, sort of capture this. And I'll just confess to you, when I was learning this piece, I couldn't do it. I was practicing with my left hand, and I was practicing with my right hand, and I was going really slowly, trying to figure out exactly how they fit together, and it was just like the gears were getting stuck every time, and I was like ready to just give up and go back to Chopin or whatever. But then, you know, I had this moment where I was like, you know what? It was a moment of frustration, actually. A moment where I was like, you know what? I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna let go of all my stress about these rhythms, and I'm just gonna trust my hands to do what I've taught them to do, And I'm going to, instead of listening so carefully to one or the other, I'm going to keep my awareness up here. And it was like I entered this Zen state of mind where I was in two places at once. And then suddenly I was able to do this rhythm. And I have to tell you, that's not normal. You know, we're musicians, we're used to, you know, practicing, every day, getting a little better and finding improvements. We're used to a pretty steady learning curve. And when I learned this piece, it was kind of like, oh, and then there's suddenly a moment when I could do a trick that I couldn't do before. Anyway, like I said, this is a set of variations. So what I just demonstrated for you is the first line of music. So after that, he keeps changing the rhythms. So 7 against 8 becomes later 7 against 9, which then becomes 6 against 10, and then the 10 stays where it's going, and the 6 becomes a little skipping rhythm, and then there are triplets that are dotted in one hand against 5 plus. Anyway, you get the idea. It changes and changes and keeps modulating, but never does it shake that wonderful, dreamy, kind of songful mood. You know, it never sounds like weird modern music at any time. And I have to say, there's a moment near the end when my hands finally come together, and every time I get there, you know, it sounds kind of like church bells. They're just ringing out, and every time I get there, I think like, hallelujah, I made it. Now my hands play together. So anyway, that was a little behind the scenes of how Ian learned this wonderful little piece of music. This is by Samuel Barber, his Excursions for the Piano.
Oh, it's lovely. Wow. Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, I'm squinting into the light here. You know what I'm actually Sorry about that. Disappeared for a moment. Again, that was a little bit of music from Samuel Barber. Samuel Barber's the third movement of his excursions for the piano. I think I'm going to take a moment and play the second of his excursions as well. I mentioned earlier that there were four of these. This one's a charming one. It's rather laid back little blues tempo. So I hope you enjoy a little bit more of this music of Samuel Barber. Thanks again. That's more music of Samuel Barber. That was the second of his excursions for the piano, the slow blues tempo. Next on our program, I'm going to invite Rosie back to the stage here in my living room. Invite her back to the camera. Rosie, do you mind just introducing yourself a little bit?
Sure.
Just, I think most people who've tuned into these programs know me pretty well. And I'm going to ask here, I'm going to switch videos and I'm going to ask Rosie to introduce herself.
In this mic. Good evening, everyone. My name is Roseminna Watson, as you all already know, because Ian told you. I am visiting here from Providence, and we have had such a good time this week in California. I used to actually live in San Francisco, which is how Ian and I met. We met in the chamber music program at San Francisco Conservatory back in 2008, I think it was, 2008 to 10. And we actually haven't played together since, but it has just been delightful this week and really exciting to put together the piece for violin, piano, and clarinet that I hope some of you maybe can come here tomorrow in Oakland. So back in Providence, I do a bunch of different things. I teach a class of little kids who are 8 and 9 years old, violin. None of them had even held a violin before last September, and now I've got 9 of them playing little songs on their tiny violins, so that's kind of exciting. And I freelance a lot in Providence and the New England area, and I also play in a new music ensemble called Verdant Vibes, which is based in Providence, Rhode Island. We are about to record our first album coming up in May, which is pretty exciting, and Verdant Vibes likes to feature a lot of different voices from a very diverse range of composers, a wide age range as well as wide ethnic and racial backgrounds. So that's pretty exciting. And I am just waiting for Ian to make his appearance back on screen. We're about to play another very gorgeous piece by Amy Beach, and I will hand it back over to Ian to officially introduce that.
Thank you. That was good. I needed a water break. Filled up my water bottle. Next on our program is a piece by Amy Beach. Amy Beach was an American composer. She was born in the late 1800s, in the height of what we call the Romantic era in music. And her style is, predominantly in this Romantic era, Romantic style. This piece that we're going to play was written when Amy Beach was about 20 years old. It's called A Romance for Violin and Piano. And like I said, she wrote this when she was about 20. She wrote this for another young woman who was a violinist. Amy herself was a great pianist, really fantastic pianist. And she wrote this for a great violinist, a woman named Maud Powell. And the occasion for this piece, the reason why she wrote this for them to play together was, you know what? I just realized. Can you just straighten that? Sorry, we have cables all over my living room. You see how it's twisted to the side? Yeah. Just straighten that whole microphone setup there.
Like this?
Thank you. Yeah, I was pulling cables around, and that's perfect. Where was I? Amy Beach and Maud Powell performed this piece in 1883 at the International Women's Congress, which was held in Chicago, Illinois. And, this is where women in the world of music all got together, and two of the featured performers were these young women, both who were sort of all lined up to have these incredible star careers, as Amy as a pianist and composer, Maud Powell as a great violinist. Amy's career took an interesting turn when she got married. She got married in Boston, and her husband did this thing where he forbade her to play public concerts, which is just kind of hard to imagine now, but those were different times, I suppose. And so, she was allowed to play, I think, 3 concerts a year or something, and that was his rule. And anyway, she survived. She dedicated a lot of her time to composing, and so we have a lot of her music now, perhaps because of this strange limitation. She also outlived her husband by many years, so at the end of her life, she did resume a more active career in music, thankfully. This piece, like I said, is a youthful work in the romantic style. It's called a romance for violin and piano, and it is just really great. We hope you like it. This is music by Amy Beach. Yeah. That's all I'll say about that. Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. That was music by the American composer Amy Beach. We have one more piece to share with you tonight. Thank you all so much for spending part of your weekend, part of your Saturday evening, tuning in to Zoom for a little bit of music. We've had a lot of fun doing all of these programs. You know, Rosie was first featured in one of our digital concerts back in the winter of 2020. And she was at her home in Rhode Island, and I was here, and I think we had some other musicians tuning in from other places in the world. And it was partly because of that performance that she was invited out to California, because one of our dear fans, Michael Kogan, a longtime supporter of the festival, was so taken with Rosie's personality and her music and her compositions that he wanted us to commission a new piece from her. So that's kind of what we've come together. And if you stay tuned and you look, keep up on our mailing list, you'll hear a performance of that we will put up on the YouTube. Also, of note, if you're on our mailing list, my plan is to send out a full list of tonight's program. I'll send that out in the morning so that just in case later you're thinking about, oh, what was it they played? Well, I'll put a little list there in the email so that you can look it up later. Also, we'll have this recorded. If you know anyone else who might enjoy it, you can send them the link as well. And they can enjoy it wherever they want. Or, hey, you could fire it up and watch it again tomorrow night if you want. Just watch the same thing every night if you want. Anyway, my final job as the director of this festival is to remind you all that this, like virtually all of our concerts, whether they're online or in person, this is free to attend. You know, it is open for people to come. And instead of selling tickets to all of our concerts, we have a suggested contribution model, which means that we just ask everyone who's listening and to our music to think about, you know, what this is worth to them, what this concert, what these individual musicians, and what the festival overall is worth to you and how you can support it. Please be as generous as you're able to. This is how we're able to do so many collaborative things with musicians like Roseminna here. So please find your way to the Trinity Alps Chamber Music website, trinityalpscmf.org. You should know how to get there. I'm pretty sure you all RSVP'd with the link from the website, so you should know how to get there. You can make a donation there, or you can send a check in the mail the old-fashioned way. I love getting mail, so I recommend that. We have one last piece of music to share with you tonight, a little bit of dessert to send you home with. Wait, you're probably already home, so you're send you off to bed or whatever. This is a piece by the French composer Jules Massenet. It's from one of his operas, actually, an opera called Thais. But don't worry, we're not going to start singing at you. This piece is actually it's a moment that happens in between scenes. So when the singers cease their wailing for a moment, the first violinist of the orchestra, which in the opera house is down in the pit, under the stage, the first violinist takes this magical solo, accompanied by the strings and the harp, in this case the piano. And through some twist of fate, it's become the most famous part of the whole opera, this little moment that the violin has in the middle. So it's a lovely piece, and we hope you enjoy it. This is called The Meditation from Thais by Jules Massenet.
Tell him that you have different music than I do. He has a different part from mine.
Okay, clap.
All right. Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. I hear some of you clapping, despite the filter that filters it out. But thank you so much. Let's see here. That brings our program to a close today. Thank you all again. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have just a few minutes left. If anyone wants to, you can. What I'd kind of love is to hear from some people, just to make sure that we have a live audience. Sometimes it's a little weird being here and playing for the computer, So. Does anyone want to say hello? Margaret Jacobs, I see you. Hi.
Yes, I'm here. Wonderful concert. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you so much for tuning in.
I particularly love the barber. I've got to listen to that some more.
Oh, good. Yes. I recommend really all of his music. Those excursions are some of my favorite. Does anyone else have any comments or any questions, I guess? Any questions for me or for Roseminna here? Let's see. You're welcome to just unmute yourself and speak up. I've also got a special surprise for everyone. This is my cat Monkey. She's been walking around trying to tell us how much she enjoys the concert.
She doesn't join in.
Luckily, no. She's not much of a singer. that would be pretty funny. I think what she really means to say is that it's dinner time and that she needs to be fed. But yeah, she's been good. I see our friends Mac McMillan. Hi. Are you there, Mac? Yeah, nice to see you.
I am.
Hey, all right.
I hope you continue doing these digital concerts.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. I think we will. It's a trick of the schedule, just getting people involved and getting making sure that my cat's not busy or something. I see a question in the chat about the piano piece, that little piece by Barber. The question was, is the piece normally played by two people or one person? That's a good question. Sometimes I think it'd be easier if I had a second person handling it, a second brain in charge of the other part. But no, I'm sorry to say the answer is it is normally meant for one person to play. And yeah, it's still tricky. I still love thinking about that piece. One of the great things about it is that when you really get it, what's interesting is if I hadn't said anything about it, about those rhythms, about the variations and all of that, if I just sat down and played it, it's a very gentle and beautiful piece, and it kind of rolls right along. I don't think anyone would have noticed anything particularly crazy about it.
That.
So, but like I said, I worked very hard on that. I sweat bullets, just to make all that work. So I wanted you to know, darn it, I wanted some appreciation.
It sounded effortless when you played it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's a good sign. That's what I was going for. Thanks for the question. I guess anyone else who wants to, you're welcome to unmute yourself and say hi and ask any questions or comments. You can also to chat, type into the chat. I see my friend Sandra is chiming in. She's very happy that she was able to tune in. Her father played with the San Francisco Symphony, David Schneider. I'm so glad that you were here, Sandra, and you were able to recognize some of the music we did. Looks like your father David played Mozart and that meditation from Thais. How great. Okay, I think we've come to the conclusion of our program tonight. Thank you all again. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you all to unmute yourself and perhaps applaud wildly so that my colleague Rosie especially can hear how much you enjoyed it. Thanks.
It was lovely. Wow. Thank you.